As a single man, I started dating Latinas, you know? I started dating Latinas and I had a Colombian girlfriend or two, right? What's good, family? So this video is for all the people who have asked me how have I learned Spanish so quickly, what did I do, the methods that I used. Obviously, you guys see now that I've done content in Spanish. I've done full-on half-an-hour interviews. I've done vlogs.
Pues, ¿qué quieres que te cuente?
Pues, cualquier cosa. Cualquier cosa.
Cualquier cosa.
Sí,
pero
sí.
es que es muy relativo.
Bueno.
Hay muchísimas cosas de qué hablar.
Bueno, vale. Así que hoy tengo preguntas para ti, te voy a preguntar tantas cosas, porque pues, aunque ya te conozco, ya nos conocimos, todo eso, yo quiero que la gente sepa cómo qué tal la vida aquí y también como las diferencias entre todo de Colombia, como las culturas. Dale, entonces dile a la gente dónde estamos.
Estamos en la selva.
Ah, pero muy bueno uno aprender a hablar de todo un poquito. Claro, también te abre puertas, te defiende uno. Algo a la gente, ¿qué tal?
Hey, un saludo.
¿Estamos en Medellín o qué?
Un saludo, estamos aquí en Medellín. Un saludo para todos, la mejor ciudad.
I've made a bunch of content in Spanish, and in this video I'm going to tell you guys exactly what I did to be able to learn Spanish in just over a year and some change. All of the little quirks and things that I did to be able to really dive deep and be able to speak this language. Last year at this time, I made a video saying how I became fluent in Spanish in a few months. Last year at this time, I was at about a B1, B2 level, which was I was able to converse. I wouldn't even say B2, I would say B1. I could converse, I could talk about various subjects and topics. I could have, certain deep conversations about certain topics. Well, guys, I am now at a C1 level. Now, if you don't know the system of, the levels of fluency is basically A1, A2, which is like a beginner starting to learn language, right? And then B1, B2 is like a little bit more fluent. C1 is advanced, and then C2 is damn near native. That's probably the closest that you can get to native. So in about a year and some change time, I've been able to get to a C1 level. Así que todo el mundo me ha preguntado, Dudley, ¿cómo aprendiste español tan rápido? ¿Qué hiciste para poder hablar así? No hay tantos extranjeros que aprenden español tan rápido como vos. Así que, ¿qué hiciste? Cuéntame. Bueno, así que en este video les voy a contar los 6 métodos que yo utilicé para poder hablar español, para mejorar mi comprensión, mi habilidad, digamos, para tener un vocabulario más profundo, todo eso. Así que dale, vamos. The first method was, guys, I started coming to Colombia late 2021, but I didn't speak anything, right? Even in 2022, I was like, I couldn't have a conversation. So last year, at the beginning of last year, I couldn't have a conversation, right? Just to put it out there to give you guys an idea of where I was starting at. I'm Haitian. I grew up in a house speaking Creole, French, and English. Those were the 3 languages that I've spoken my whole life. So I didn't know anything about Spanish. Some might argue that speaking 3 languages might have helped me learn Spanish quicker. I'm not denying that, but I will say that Spanish was very hard for me, I must admit. Having to learn how to think like a native Spanish speaker, it really challenged my brain, and it made my brain more, what's the word I'm looking for, like neuroplastic, right? So the first method I used was simply free YouTube videos and free classes. Now on YouTube, there's a bunch of channels that teach you Spanish grammar, teach you how to converse, they teach you all types of things. They could even teach you some, slangs in different countries, but we're gonna get into that later. So I would dedicate 1 hour every day to Spanish, right? This was starting last year, I would say. Last year around, I wanna say May, exactly probably like a year and some change ago, I started dedicating 1 hour of Spanish study, watching Spanish classes, taking notes, writing stuff down, learning the structure of Spanish, right? That was the first method. I highly recommend that you guys do this because you can learn so many different dialects, so many different expressions, but I recommend that you just focus on just learning how to structure your sentences, learning how to understand what people are saying, and just learning the grammar. For me personally, there's a whole bunch of different methods, but for me, I had to understand the structure of Spanish because I didn't know the structure, right? Because whenever I would try to say something, I was thinking like I would think in either French or English. And even though French is also a Latin language, Spanish is a completely different language. Number 2, the second thing I did was I used this app right here, and it's not sponsored. I'm not sponsored by them. I wish they would sponsor me, but I use an app called Lingo there, right? Now, When I purchased this app, it was $100 for a lifetime, right? This app, I gotta be honest, this app is at least 85% responsible for how I speak Spanish today. This app taught me the structure, grammar, expressions. It even has different dialects, okay? It has the dialect from Spain, Spaniard Spanish, which I'm gonna get into later, and it has Latin American Spanish. Now, I primarily studied the Latin American Spanish simply because I moved to Colombia and I've been here now, for technically 2 years. I wanted to learn Spanish, so I started studying that Spanish, right? But I have to be honest with you, right? Spanish is so diverse and different in each and every country that you may learn one Spanish and go to another country and you're speaking that Spanish and they're looking at you crazy and they're laughing at you. So just a disclaimer, just because you learn Spanish, like other countries use other words, right? So you may be able to speak Spanish, right? But when you go somewhere else, like they look at you like you're crazy. Like for example, I learned my Spanish in Colombia. The way I speak, a lot of the words I use are words that are from Colombia, from like creído, creída, vos, I use a lot of vos, I use a lot of pues. That's how I learned it. So that's my accent, that's how I speak. I remember I went to the Dominican Republic last year and like I could speak and I was saying, like vos, and they was looking at me laughing like vos, you from like you posh, like motherfucker, like that's how they were looking at me, but that's how I learned Spanish. So just a disclaimer that depending on where you learn Spanish from, other countries that you go to, they might look at you a little funny. Third method that I used, right, to be able to improve my Spanish and how I learn Spanish is the obvious one. I moved to Colombia. I've been here now, like I said, for the better part of 2 years. I wanted to learn Spanish and I chose Colombia. I could have went to Spain. I could have stayed in Honduras. I could have stayed in Mexico. I wanted to come to Colombia and learn Spanish here. I had a friend that invited me here back in 2021. I came to visit. I fell in love with the country and I was very frustrated because I couldn't speak. I couldn't communicate with people. I wanted to make friends. I also wanted to learn about this economy and eventually be able to purchase property out here. And so that was a fire for me to really start learning Spanish. I wanted to do business in Latin America and I wanted to be able to connect with the people. So that's really when I started, sometime after dedicating that 1 hour a day that I told you guys, right? Living here in a Spanish speaking country, obviously everything is in Spanish, the signs, the people. And I'm oftentimes in parts of the country where there are no foreigners, so nobody speaks English or French or, so which is very good for me because I was able to really learn and be fully immersed in Spanish, reality in a Spanish world. And so by living here in Colombia and only being around Spanish, my ear and my brain got used to hearing it. As opposed to, let's say I was back in the States, the States, there's a lot of Spanish speakers. But sometimes when you go to the States and you try to speak Spanish to a Latin person, right, a Latino, they'll reply to you back in English because one, they think that you don't speak Spanish or they want to practice their English. That's something that I've realized is that when a lot of extranjeros, like foreigners, Latino foreigners go to the States, not all the time, but sometimes when you want to speak Spanish to them, they reply to you back in English. I don't know why they do that, but maybe it's to fit in because I can understand that because my family is from Haiti and they would just try to speak English, whatever. Being here has definitely, I gotta be honest, would my Spanish be as good as it is now if I would have still been in the States? I honestly can't say yes. Now, am I saying that you have to go to a country and fully immerse yourself in that country, in that language for you to learn it? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You can absolutely learn a language from home. There's websites like italki where you can, talk to native speakers. There's web chat application where you can go practice and talk to people. Absolutely. But did it make it a lot easier? Yes, I'm not gonna lie. Being forced to read signs in Spanish, decipher what does this mean, order your food every day, go to appointments, doctor appointments and cell phone appointments, and my brain, I was like a sponge. And I still am like a sponge, absorbing Spanish every single day. Because here's the thing, although I'm at a C1 level right now, I believe Spanish has over 70,000 words, right? So you're not gonna know every word, you're always gonna be learning. The same thing with my native language, right? Creole or English. I've been speaking English pretty much my whole life. I don't know every word in English. I'm still learning English words every day. So it's the same thing with Spanish. Even if you're a native speaker in Spanish, you don't know all the words. But being here, oh my gosh, I hear so many new words every single day. So let's move on. Number 4, as a single man, I started dating Latinas, I started dating Latinas and I had a Colombian girlfriend or 2, right? Now, I want to say this because as I always am with you guys, I'm always honest, right? I always keep it a buck with you. A lot of foreigners, they come here and they get on Tinder. I want to be very honest with you, okay? Especially if you don't speak the language and depending on what you're looking for. Tinder in Colombia, in Medellin, is very dangerous, okay? Foreigners get killed every week, and I'm not exaggerating, every week. They get drugged by some chick and they get killed. Does this mean that all the women here are bad? Absolutely not. They are fantastic women. But you have to be careful. There are women here that look for foreigners to prey on them and just kill them or take what they have, take their laptop, passport, and you gotta be vigilant. A lot of guys come here, as I said before, and they're not used to getting access to women, sexual access to women, right? Cornballs. And there's so many beautiful women here that when they see a beautiful girl, they just go crazy and they lose their sense, right? And so you have to be very careful. What I recommend is that you just meet people in person. Go out, get a cup of coffee. You can feel their energy, right? Now, this can be intimidating for most foreigners because they don't speak the language. This is why before you even start dating, I recommend you just learn the language. Me personally, before I had a girlfriend here, I was actually studying Spanish for about 6 months. And so now I'm not saying don't go out, do your thing, have fun. We're all grown here, do your thing. But I'm just giving you some tips to be safe because every week there's a foreigner dying in some hotel by some chick. Granted, most of these guys are messing with hood chicks or prostitutes, but you just never know. Whether it's Colombia or another country, you just never know people's intentions, okay? So I'm just saying, be safe, okay? For me, one way that I learned Spanish even better was I started dating Latinas, right? I had a couple of girlfriends, not at the same time, you feel me? But I started dating Latinas and being around them, as I said in a previous video that I made last year, and being around their family and spending time with their family, being at their house and just listening and talking and practicing and allowing myself to make errors, grammatical errors, and then being corrected by them. It helped me get those reps up to where I can learn and I could become more better. See, I can't even speak English properly, right? Grammatical error. It allowed me to just, improve my comprehension, improve my grammar, overall, just better my ability to speak Spanish. So I would definitely say getting a Colombian girlfriend definitely helped me learn a whole bunch of new words, especially when she's mad at me. You know how they get, right? When they're screaming at you, you learn a lot of those words. When she's happy, you learn a lot of the words, like when they're in love, So it was just a good opportunity for me to really dive deep into the Spanish language. But I will say this, I've dated Colombian girls, I've dated Dominican girls, Puerto Rican, right? All of these different people use different vocabulary. So it was good to be around different Spanish speakers from different regions with their dialects so that you can really hear the different words and different reasons of how they speak. And then number 5, the 5th way I learned Spanish was I put myself in uncomfortable situations. First and foremost, I moved to a foreign country where I didn't speak the language, that's 1. But 2, every day I try to go out and just mingle, just talk. Like I said, conociendo, a la gente, hablando con la gente, conectando, haciendo conexiones, haciendo amigos, marchando, como dice la gente aquí en Colombia, y poco a poco lo aprendí así, haciendo amigos, saliendo, you know what I'm saying? Así, I just going out, talking with the people, or for example, setting up my own appointments on the phone, going to handle, certain appointments I had, whether that was my cell phone carrier or doctor, and not shying away, because there was hella times where I would get so nervous, because you want to speak well, you don't want to sound like a baby, you don't want to sound stupid. You gotta let that fear go, guys. It's not your native language. You're not gonna speak perfect, right? Even till this day, there's some times where I may say something incorrectly and I'm like, damn. But now at a C1 level, I catch it and I correct myself mid-sentence, right? But I remember up until this point, I would just get nervous all the time if I had to go to like a Ghana store and just order something, or I had to go add, some more minutes on my phone. I had to go back to the clerk and talk to her and say, I would get nervous, but you gotta put yourself in uncomfortable situations. Why? It makes you a more, tough person. Una persona más tesa o berraca, you feel me? As they say here, a tougher person, right? Putting myself in uncomfortable situations, it's a way of life. You gotta get over that fear, you gotta get over that hump, you feel me? I even did it this year. I went to Italy, I ducked off, I started learning Italian, and I started putting myself in uncomfortable situations, guys. If you are a lover of culture and language, a true Renaissance man, you're gonna have to put yourself in uncomfortable situations, and you're gonna thank yourself for it later. So this is how I've really increased my Spanish ability. I would literally just be walking up to people, start talking, start engaging with them, right? What I like about the people here is that even if you don't speak Spanish fluently, they're gonna be patient with you and they're gonna let you try to formulate your sentence, and they're not gonna be rude about it. Whereas if you're trying to speak French in France, the French people can be quite some assholes. They'll like literally say, no, it's répondre, you have to say this, So over here, it's not like that. The people know that you're a foreigner, they're gonna work with you. So that was the 5th way that I was able to really better my ability to speak Spanish. And then last but not least, guys, once I got to a B2 level, I started studying other Spanish. I started studying Spanish from Spain and picking up vocab from over there and using it in my daily speech here with my accent. It makes for a very unique sounding Spanish, the way that I speak. I remember a couple of weeks ago, I was speaking with a friend from here, Paisa, and I used a word that surprisingly he never heard, right? And I was talking to him about a friend of mine that was discouraged, right? Now, there's like many ways that you can say discouraged, which means like lacking confidence. You can say, falta confianza. But I said, él estaba muy desanimado. Él estaba muy desanimado. Desanimado means discouraged. So, just in casual conversation, I use that word. And he said, yo, like, what does that word mean? He said, yo, how are you learning all these words? I'm like, brother, I'm just like studying different Spanishes every single day. I started studying Spanishes from all over the world, even Equatorial Guinea, which is a Spanish-speaking country, Africa, that most people don't really know about, right? I started studying different accents, different dialects, right? I started studying the slang. Even the slang here, there's a lot of slang, chimba, you can a lot of that stuff. Like there's a lot of words that they use here that I started studying. Naturally living here, it just became a part of my everyday vocabulary, right? Even if I'm in another Spanish-speaking country now, I talk as if I learned my Spanish here, which I did. And they're like, yo, why do you speak like a Colombian a little bit? And it's like, I learned it here. Really, guys, I believe that studying different dialects and accents of Spanish and really any language can help you learn it a lot faster. At least it did for me. Once I got to B2, I started just branching out. Like, I love Colombian Spanish, but I started studying the Spanish in the coast. I started studying the Spanish in Chile, which a lot of people talk trash about, even in Argentina or Peru or Honduras, or I started studying all these different accents, right? So guys, así yo aprendí español, conectando con la gente, haciendo amigos, como ya les dije, pues ocasionalmente saliendo con una mujer, conociendo, todo eso, y poco a poco yo mejoré mi habilidad, mi comprensión, todo eso, y ahora lo hablo con fluido, aunque todavía no lo hablo tan, digamos, perfectamente. Eso no importa, lo más importante es que yo lo hablo, y pues con tal de que lo hable, ya. So guys, that's the video, man. This will be the last video that I will make about this topic. I get asked this topic a lot. In a month and a half, I will be moving on to my next language, which is Mandarin. So I wanted to make this video for all the people that are new to my channel. Obviously, you guys see that I'm doing Spanish interviews now, full Spanish interviews, that I'm doing content in Spanish, I'm vlogging in Spanish. So I've achieved my goal of being able to speak Spanish. And so that's why I wanted to make this video for all the people that still ask me. And now I'm moving on to Chinese, man. I'm moving on to Mandarin, which is a whole nother beast. And so this will be my last video, not my last video speaking Spanish, but this will be my last video addressing what methods I use to be able to learn Spanish. And probably in the future, I'll be making a video of how I learned Mandarin, how I learned Arabic. As a man that truly loves culture, I'm not stopping here. So let's go. I'll see you guys in the next video, man. Salute.